Once the hole was drilled, I used sandpaper to smooth the edges, removing any burrs and making sure there were no sharp edges that could cause scratches during use. Here, I have an old plastic bottle that I no longer need. I'm going to cut off the top to make a small funnel. This simple funnel makes it much easier to pour butyl acetate into the can without spilling. I shake the can thoroughly, pour the solvent back out, and repeat the process several times until the inside of the can is completely clean. It's a simple preparation step, but it makes the rest of the project much easier and helps achieve a much better final result. Next, I'm going to prepare an old bicycle valve. First, I'll remove the valve core because that's the part we'll be using later in the project. The rubber gasket and retaining nut aren't needed today, so I'll remove those as well, leaving only the valve body. Then, I'll clean off the remaining rubber attached to the base of the valve. After that, I'll lightly sand the entire surface to remove any leftover residue and create a smoother finish. It only takes a few minutes, and the valve is clean and ready to be installed into the hole I drilled in the can earlier. Next, I'll prepare a short piece of plastic tubing. A small section like this is all we need. After cutting it to the proper length, I'll sand both ends to remove any burrs and make assembly easier. For now, I'll set this piece aside because we won't need it until a few steps later. In this step, I'm preparing the paint mixture for the device we're building. I'm reusing the bottom half of an old plastic bottle as a small mixing container. Then, using a syringe, I draw a small amount of paint from the can and transfer it into the container. Next, I add a little butyl acetate to thin the paint. When mixed in the right ratio, the paint flows more smoothly, allowing the device to operate more consistently and produce a finer, more even finish during testing. To mix the paint thoroughly, I'm making a simple stirring tool from an old welding rod. While I'm working on this step, I'd also like to ask you something. Where are you watching this video from? Which country or city are you in? Are any of you also into repairing, recycling, or building DIY projects like I am? If you have any useful tips or creative ideas, feel free to share them in the comments. I believe your real-world experience could be incredibly helpful to others, and who knows, your ideas might even inspire one of my future projects. After stirring thoroughly, the paint mixture has reached the consistency I was looking for. Now I use a syringe to draw up the paint and slowly inject it into the can through the hole I drilled earlier. I do this carefully to avoid spilling any paint. Once the can contains the right amount of paint, it's time to move on to the next important assembly step. Here's the bicycle valve I prepared earlier. I insert the base of the valve into the hole in the side of the can and carefully align it so it sits perfectly straight. Before securing it permanently, I apply a small amount of super glue to hold the valve in place. This prevents it from shifting during assembly and also helps create a better seal when the device is in use. Once the valve is secured, I slide the small plastic tube over the base to provide an extra layer of support and reinforcement. Next, I'll strengthen the entire area using a piece of foam. I cut the foam into small pieces and apply super glue to it layer by layer. As soon as the foam comes into contact with the glue, it dissolves and hardens into a solid mass around the base of the valve. This technique adds strength, reduces vibration, and helps seal any small gaps around the assembly. After the glue has fully cured, the connection becomes much stronger and is ready for the next steps. The connection is now solid and securely in place. Next, I'll reinstall the valve core into the bicycle valve to complete the assembly. Everything is finally ready. Now comes the most important part, putting it to the test. Will this homemade spray paint can work as well as we hoped? Let's find out. Before using it, we need to pump some air into the can to build up pressure. That pressure is what will force the paint out when the spray valve is pressed. I'll add air gradually until the pressure feels just right. Perfect, that should do it. Now we're ready for the test. Well, the results are even better than I expected. This old spray paint can has been brought back to life and works almost like new. It's amazing that with just a few simple modifications, something that most people would consider worthless can be given a whole